Hey everyone, welcome back. Remember I created a video on the OS API Top 10 and it was a CDF challenge, that study session? Similar to that, in this video we are going to cover a CDF challenge, but this one is really different. It is also going to cover API vulnerabilities though, but in this time we are not hackers, we are developers. We are going to look at the vulnerabilities and try to identify the vulnerable code and make changes to the code to solve the challenges one by one. So it's gonna be really fun and good for you guys because this way you will understand what actually happens in the backend as well, not just in the front end to exploit the HTTP request or an IDO or whatever. We are going to have a depth view of the vulnerabilities explored in this video, so sit back and relax and keep watching. This is the repository we are going to work with, Lukrembo Restaurant API game. This game is designed for developers, ethical hackers, and security engineers. For the sake of this video, we are going to approach this game as from developers' perspective, but a little bit of from hackers' perspective as well, because I'm going to show you the APIs and how we are exploiting them, and then we will fix it as well, so we can have a broader view. Because I don't want to focus totally on dev side on this video, because you guys gonna think I have changed the niche of my channel, but that's not the case. Anyways, first you have to clone this repo, and then you have to run this bash script in your terminal to start the game. You should run this in Docker as well to interact with the APIs. So I have my Docker here and I did already run this application before, so I'm just going to start this. And once it is started, it will give you a port 8091, so it's going to run over here. Let me open this up and it's loading right now. So this is the docs of the application, and you can get the API collection of this whole thing by clicking on this open API.json, and then you can just save it from this little icon. Once you save this JSON file, you can open up your Postman and import the collection in your Postman. Okay, so I have already imported it, and I have my register user over here, and you can see you have to provide your username password to register a user. Anyways, let's go to my terminal. I have already cloned the repository, so you can see I have all the files here, and my Docker is running as well. All I have to do is start the game. Okay, so what I like about this challenge is that it is in a story-like mode. So it's like a story and you have to read in the hints and then try to fix the vulnerability, and there is a plot twist as well. But anyways, it says click any key to continue. We have a little context here that the restaurant was recently attacked by unknown threat actor. The restaurant's API and underlying system were compromised by exploiting various security vulnerabilities. So, the owner of the restaurant, a mysterious chef, wants you to investigate how it happened and fix the vulnerabilities. Chef suspects that attackers were associated with the newly opened restaurant located across the street and blah blah. Anyways, let's wait for the first challenge. I don't know why it's taking so much time. Okay, finally, we have a level 0 challenge. Technology details exposed via HTTP header. Seems like a pretty simple one. So here is the note as well. I was hired to perform a security assessment of the chef restaurant. It looks like to be a pretty interesting challenge. The woman who hired me paid front and sent me on the URL it to the chef restaurant API. I spent a few minutes with the restaurant API and already found vulnerability exposing utilized technology details in the HTTP response in the health check endpoint. Okay, let's go to the Postman collection, and here we have the health check endpoint. Send the request. and go to headers, and over here we can see the X powered by, and the value is Python 3.10. So it is exposing the Python version and what it is using. So we have to fix this vulnerability. We have a section over here that says possible fix, modify the health check endpoint to return X powered, to not return X powered by HTTP header, and it is somewhere in this path. So we have to open this again in the new terminal. Go to app, then APIs, and we have this health check. And over here we have the service.py file. So I'm going to nano into the service.py file. And over here we can see the definition that this endpoint will return a response header, that is this, which is not necessary from a developer's perspective. So I'm going to remove this. And save. Now I'm going to run the test again by clicking enter. Let's go back to the Postman collection and send the request again. And this time we don't see that X powered by header. So this should solve the level 0. Okay, you fixed this vulnerability. Now we can move on to level 1. If you have any questions related to this video or any previous videos, you can ask it in my Discord server. Anyways, moving on to the next level, that is unrestricted menu item deletion. Again, we have another note. The previous vulnerability was just a low severity issue, but that allowed me to understand the application technology better. After several minutes with the app, I already found much more interesting vulnerability. It looks like the chef forgot to add authorization checks to the menu ID API endpoint, and anyone can use the delete method to delete items from the menu. Okay. So it is broken access control. Let's go back to the Postman collection, and the menu folder should have the API endpoint. Yes. So we have this delete menu item. But before we delete anything, let's go to the get menu endpoint to see what menu we have and how are the IDs. So we have ID 1, ID 2, ID 3. Oh, by the way, if you are doing this, don't forget to get your token after you register your account. Once you get the token, you have to paste it in the authorization header because it requires the authorization value to serve you the content, right? Okay, so it's a bearer token. Anyways, so we have different number of total number of 14 menus or IDs here. Let's try to delete the second one. Let's go to delete menu item and type 3 and send the request. It says not authenticated, so let me check my authorization. It's bearer token, and I did added the token value in the variables. Over here you can do the same, type the token and the token value and just save it, and then you can just type in the variable over here and you should be able to access it. Why it's saying could not validate credentials? Okay, let me try to get the token again. I think that token was my previous token and I forgot to change it. My bad. Save and back to the delete menu item. Send the request, and it says 204 no content. It means that it is deleted. Menu number 3, let's get back to get menu, send the request again, and yeah, number 3 is gone. So Here is the vulnerability, and now we have to fix it. It says that to fix this, we have to go to this particular path. Let's move back. And we have the menu file. In it, we have services. Inside the services, we have delete menu item service.py file. Click on nano. And here we can see the definition, delete menu item. It takes the item ID, current user, and it takes the session. So you can delete as long as you are authenticated into the application. Now the way they put it out is kind of a bit dumb because I just commented the actual issue here, but let's say a developer forgot and they commented out the actual authorization check here. But in this case, we just have to uncomment this and save this file. Running test again to see if this issue is solved or not. We can go back to the Postman collection and check if we can delete the menu item, let's say number 2. Send this request and it says unauthorized, means the authorization check is indeed in place right now, and we have solved level 1 as well. Let's move on to level number 2. Okay, now we have unrestricted profile update IDOR. Another note. Holy moly, I found another vulnerability. Chef would be mad at me for this one. It's possible to modify any profile's details by providing username in HTTP request sent to /profile endpoint with put method. Go back to the Postman collection, and in the profile we have this get profile endpoint, and right now by default is using the get HTTP method, which basically fetches. Okay, so I'm actually recording this video the next day. Probably my token is expired. I have to get this again. Okay, now we have the profile details. Now the thing over here is we have different HTTP method, and it's always good to test different HTTP methods when you are testing API endpoints. Let's try to test the put HTTP method, and over here we can change our details, but it says a missing body field required. Okay, because we don't have any fields right now, that's why we are getting this. So we have to provide this field in a particular format. It says that we can update the details by providing the username. Okay, we also have this update profile. Same thing, but we have body here. So over here we can update anyone profile by adding another value that is username. Probably it could be fixed by making sure the current user is authorized to perform updates only in their own profile. Okay, back in the Postman collection. So if you provide anyone's username over here, you will be able to change their details. So this is the vulnerable parameter over here. I don't know any other users who have to register another user. I would like you to test this out yourself. So back in the terminal, I'm going to go to this path, update profile service.py. Should be in the users and services. Okay, that's user role, the wrong one. It's in auth folder. And here we have the update profile service.py. Let's open this up and see what's going on. Okay, so let's scroll down. So first it fetches the user from the database by checking the username, and then it goes through the user update object one by one, that contains username, first name, last name, and phone number. So if those values exist, then it's going to iterate over this in this for loop and update the values in the database as well. And then it just refreshed the database over here after committing the changes. But one thing that is missing here is it's not checking if the user is authorized to update their own profile only and not anyone else's profile. It only checks if the user is authenticated or not. But if you're authenticated, that doesn't mean you're also authorized or you have permission to change other people details as well, right? So we have to add a particular condition here that checks if the user session belongs to them only, and based on that it will make changes, otherwise it would not. Okay, so to fix this vulnerability, we have to change one thing in this line, that is dbuser get user by username. So right now it's basically updating any user by fetching the username from the database, and it's not checking anything. We can just remove this thing and add here current user. So current user is actually a function in Fast API that is going to check the current user token and session, and based on that it's going to update it. So only the current user will be able to update their profile details and not other users. So this is just the syntax of the Fast API that this application is using. Once we're done, let's save it and go back and hit enter to run the test again. Okay, we solved it. That's great. Now we can continue to another level, that is level 3. Level 3 is privilege escalation. Now the funny part starts. I was able to escalate privileges from customer to employee. I achieved this via user/user update role API endpoint just by changing a role. With this role, I can now access the employee restricted endpoints. What I can do with this permission next? By the way, my employer didn't respond to my initial findings. This API is so vulnerable. Okay, so now this is getting serious. Let's check out the user's update role. I think it should be over, yeah, here. And we have the body here as well. I think this endpoint should be restricted to admin only. And by the way, if you go to the register user and if you register your user account, you will actually get a response where it also assigns you a role, and that role is actually customer role. So that is the default role for all the people who are accessing this application. And I think employee is an internal role who has more privileges. So a customer shouldn't be able to update their role to employee, right? But in this case, if you just try to send a put request to this endpoint, not again, have to add the variable. Okay. It's saying internal server error. Interesting. Okay, as you can see, I was able to update my role. Now, the thing is, the role was written in small letters before, and I guess that's why it was giving me 500 internal server error. If you change the role in capital letters, it will work. So now my role is updated, and I shouldn't be able to do it because I'm a customer. And there should be a customer check in the backend. So if I go back to my terminal, here we can see that probably the fix could be implemented in app APIs user services. Okay, let's go back. And we have, okay, we went 2 back now. Users and then services. Here we have the update user role service.py. So I'm going to nano into it. And here we can see that the path here is users update role. And it also says that this method allows staff to give employee role to other users. Means only the staff can give that employee role to other users, not the customer can give themselves or other users the employee role. Staff would be here employee and chef. It also says that chef role is restricted. So basically there are 3 types of roles in this application: customer, employee, and chef. I believe chef is the admin. If the role is not chef, then it's going to return only chef is authorized to add chef roles. But if it's not checking if the user can update to employee role, so we have to add a condition here now that checks for employee role as well. It's gonna be same as this one. So I'm just gonna paste it and fix the indentation. I'm just going to change the value here to employee. I'm just going to change the value here to employee. So it's going to check if the user role is employee. So we can just add if the user role is not equal to employee, then return for one unauthorized. I'm just going to add a simple message, not allowed. Okay, now we have saved the changes. Let's run it again, the test, hoping we don't get any errors. Okay, the vulnerability is not fixed yet, and okay, we have to fix it properly. Okay, I think I should have focused on the comment more. It says this method allows staff to give employee role to other users. So there are not just 3 roles, there are 4 roles: staff, employee, customer, and chef. So staff can give employee role to other users. So we have to add another condition that checks for staff role as well to the one we just added. Instead of employee, I'm just going to change it to staff. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, we solved it. So wasn't too hard. I guess we should have focused more on the comments. Anyways, let's move on to next level. Now we have a little bigger note. The vulnerability this time is server-side request forgery. So using the employee role, I was able to access more endpoints and find more vulnerabilities in endpoints restricted to employees. I found a put/menu endpoint that allows to create menu items. So this endpoint is accessible only to employees, so they can create menu and they can set images there as well. You won't believe, but it's possible to set the image via URL. The image is then downloaded and stored in the database as base64 encoded format. I could use this to perform as a server attack. I also found an endpoint admin/reset chef password, which can be used to reset the password of the chef user, but it can be accessed only by the local host. Okay, this all makes sense where it's going. Let me turn on my burp. Let's go to Postman collection. Over here in the create menu item, we can create menu. So this is the menu I created before. You have to fill in details just like that, and it will assign you an ID as well once you send the request. Okay, so in the response you can see that we have an ID, name, and we also have the image base64 value. That's why I'm using burp, so I can show you the decoded value and it will just make things a bit simpler. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my Postman collection and then go to settings. In the settings, I'll scroll down in the proxy first and use custom proxy configuration. Then I'm going to put this on. This is my burp proxy that is running on port 8080. If you're using a different port number, then you have to provide it over here. So once this is set, I'm going to close it and turn on the intercept. If I send this request, I'll get it in my burp like that. So I'm going to send this to repeater first and send this request again. It says created, and this time we're assigned with ID number 16. Okay, let's try to send request to localhost. Okay, so now we can add any image URL here. So I'm going to add localhost, and my application is hosted on 8091, as you can see here. So you have to provide the same URL over there as well. And send the request. It gives 201 created. If there was a whitelist present, it wouldn't be giving us a response like this. So it's a way to detect that it might have or very likely have SSRF. If we highlight this, you can see the value. It says not found, because if you go to this particular port directly, you're gonna get this response. Let's try to visit profile, because we know this path exists, which we saw in the Postman as well. Let me show you if you have forgotten. Okay, let me first turn this off. Profile, and you can see this is the profile I'm talking about. Back to burp repeater, send a request, and we can see again a new response. Let's highlight this, and it says not authenticated. So this is giving us response now. Let's see if we can try to visit this endpoint that we got in the note as a hint, that is admin reset chef password. Okay, let's try to send this request, and this time we get another payload. And okay, in the response we see a new password, and it's a pretty big one. So we just reset the password of admin. Now, because this is how the API is working, it seems you just have to send a request. It's going to generate a random password for the admin. Okay, now we have to solve this. This shouldn't be happening, right? First of all, this application or this menu endpoint shouldn't be accepting any image URL or any image URL such as a localhost. So we have to make such changes in the code file. Let's go back, menu, and then services. Here we have create menu item service.py file. Okay, so you can see the code here. This is how it's creating the menu item. It takes the current user session and it checks if it has the employee role or the chef role, then they can only create it. But since we escalated our role to employee, we can use this as well. So this doesn't seem to have that image URL logic. I guess we have to look at a different file. There is another file, utils.py. Here we have utils. And here we have the main definition for the image. how it's accepting, and base64 encoding the image file. Okay, so it takes the image URL and then it gives it in a response, and there is no check over here to see if the image URL is any localhost URL or not. So we have to add a check right over here. Okay, so I'm just going to paste these 2 lines of code here and I'll explain what's going on. So first it's going to parse the URL and it will check if the host name contains localhost or this IP address, and if it does, then it's going to raise this error. Otherwise it's gonna move on to the next step and then encode the image. Okay, now let's go back to here and press enter to run the test again. Great, we have fixed the server-side request forgery vulnerability. Click any key to continue. Let's move on to the next level. I hope you guys enjoying this video, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Now we have level 5, which is the last level, and this is remote code execution. Previously, I was able to perform SSRF attack to reset the chef password and receive a new password in the response. I logged in as chef and I found out that he is using admin stats disk endpoint to check the disk usage of the server. The endpoint used parameters, query parameter that was utilized to pass more arguments to the df command that was executed on the server. Okay, let's go to Postman collection, and here we have the get disk usage stats, and we have the parameter here. That sounds a bit weird. Parameter. Okay, so let's go to get token, and in the body here we can see that we have to provide the username and password. We already know that the username is chef and the password is what we just received in burp, that is this one. Hope this works. Okay, username admin or small a or small f. Okay, this time it worked. It was because of the capital C before. Wow, I really just did a brute force attack on username field. Anyways, finally we have the access token. Let me update it real quick over here. And now we are the admin. If I go back in here and send the request again, it's gonna give the response. This response looks like of the command df that you run in Linux. So first we'll run the df command as it is, and then a semicolon to end that command, and there we can add our own command ls. And this time we are getting a response. Okay. Cool, so we're in the app folder. Great, we are in the system now. So the vulnerability here is remote code execution, and this definitely needs to be fixed. So we have to move to app APIs admin utils.py file. Admin, and here we have the utils. As you can see the code here, it's running df-h command, and it takes the parameters which is user supplied, and it's not checking anything what kind of parameters we are providing. Also, it's taking the command directly and running it in the shell. So we have to add some logic here that doesn't take any else command. So before solving this, I tried something like this. I removed this thing and added these 2 lines. these are the only two lines that you have to add. First is this args variable that is going to take the parameters and split it. And then we are going to provide the user value as parameter here. So this function here parses the parameter values here as a list, not as a command. And this function also handles quotes and spaces or semicolons that we added. If you have better solutions, I would like to know that in the comment section as well. So do let me know your opinions for each challenge. Now let's go back and run the test again. And while we are getting error, the vulnerability seems to be fixed. However, the feature or application is not working correctly. It might be related to wrong formatting imports. Okay, let's go back. It is right, actually. I did forgot to import something. Since we are using this function, we have to import it as well, right? Import shell run the test again. Okay, so we were finally able to solve level 5. And let me read the last note in level 5 as well. After accessing the server instance, I noticed that my employer didn't tell me the whole truth. Who is the owner of this restaurant API? I performed some OSINT and found out who is she. She is the owner of some restaurant, but not this one. I should have validated the identity of this woman. I won't take any job like this in future. Wow, I wonder this woman is the one who was trying to get in the application. That was weird. But then why would she pay though? Anyways, now that we are at the end of the video, this time I took a different approach, and I hope you enjoyed watching this as well from dev side of things. Let me know your views in the comment section, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.